Hello, welcome to our practice today. Today we will be doing some stretching, working on flexibility and stabilizing the joints. My name's Crystal. All you'll need is a mat or some space, maybe a towel or a blanket to work on. You might also want a blanket or an extra towel just for some padding underneath the knees. Other than that, just yourself, some comfortable clothing, and we can begin in a seated position. Coming into any seated position, making sure both sit bones planted nicely onto the mat. Sitting up nice and tall. Growing tall out through the spine, up, out through the crown of the head. Maybe you close your eyes if that feels comfortable for you. You can also find a spot just to take a soft gaze, a drishti point. The palms can rest on your thighs or in your lap. Just taking a moment here to center into our practice, into this moment today. Just beginning to listen to the sound of our breath. As we inhale, thinking of the expansion within the body. And as we exhale, the contraction, sending the air out. Inhaling, like filling a balloon, blowing up the balloon with air, all the way into your abdomen, the ribs, your chest. And then exhaling, contracting from the chest, the ribs, the abdomen, blowing all of the stale air out. Inhale to expand. Exhale to contract. On the next inhale breath, gently turning the head to look over the right shoulder. And on the exhale breath, coming back to a neutral position. And on an inhale breath, turning to the left. And on an exhale, coming back through to center. Inhale, looking up to the sky. And exhale, come back to center. Inhale as the chin comes down to the chest. And exhale, come back to center. The next inhale breath, let's drop the right ear to the right shoulder. And on the next inhale or exhale breath, let's just begin to make half circles, rolling the head down, bringing the chin down to the chest very slowly. And on the inhale, rolling back to the opposite side, bringing the left ear to the left shoulder. Trying to keep the shoulders nice and relaxed here. Exhaling, dropping the chin back to the chest. Inhaling to come back over to the right side. So you can stay here with the half circles, or if it's okay for you, you can take full circles. Just move nice and slow with the neck. You don't want to jerk it. Very slow, gentle movements. And if you're taking full circles, remember to move in the opposite direction as well. And then next time you're at chin to chest, take a nice inhale breath to lift the head back to a neutral position. If the eyes are closed, you can choose to open them here. We're going to take the left hand and place it down on the mat beside the left hip. Bring the breath in. Allow this right glute to become heavy. Lengthen up through the crown of the head. And then the right fingers are going to reach up behind the ear here. Take it behind the ear and over the head as we inhale and reach all the way up and over for a nice side body stretch. And on an exhale, we'll bring those right fingertips all the way out in front of our face. And then on the inhale, draw the thumbs back, opening the chest. Exhale the fingers back in front of the face. Now don't let the head just hang down. We want to keep it at a steady position. Exhale the fingertips forward. Be mindful of the head. Inhale, draw the fingertips back. One more time. Exhale those fingertips forward and begin to lift the body. Come back up through center. Hands are on the lap. Let's just take a moment back in center to reevaluate. Come back to that breath. Inhaling to expand. Exhaling to contract. On to the other side. The right hand comes to the mat beside the right hip. Glue that left glute down to the mat. And begin to draw the left hand up the side body behind the left ear this time. Lengthen through the crown as we reach those left fingertips overhead. We inhale, we reach in overhead. And on the exhale, let's bring those fingertips forward in front of the face. Inhale, reach in overhead, open the chest. Maybe you look up to the sky. Exhale, bringing the fingertips forward. Inhale, the thumb comes back. Look up to the sky. Exhale, the fingers forward. Inhale, thumb back. Look up to the sky. Last one. Fingertips are forward. Lift, come back up to center. Take a moment here. Breathe in through the nose. Take a big inhale through that nose. Expand that belly. Open the mouth. Let a gentle sigh come out. We're going to move into a tabletop position. Hands come in front. Wrists are right below the shoulders. The knees are below the hips. And just imagine the front side body lifting up to meet your back side body here. Defying gravity. Take a couple cat-cows just to lubricate that spine a little bit. On an inhale breath, just drop the belly. Open up through the chest. Lift your gaze. Exhale as we round the spine. Bring the gaze to your belly button. Inhale, drop the belly again. Lift the gaze, lift the tailbone. And just continue this movement with your breath. Let the breath lead the movement. Inhale. And exhale. Next time you come through center to a neutral spine, we'll stop here and just take a couple wrist stretches, taking the right wrist and just turning the fingertips back towards the body here. Coming down onto the wrist or onto the palm again. This may be enough of a stretch, or you can begin to send the hips back a little bit. This feels super yummy if you type a lot. You can even add a little bit of movement if that feels good. So always remember to do what feels good in your body. You are your own critic. You're your own, you know what happens, what you feel in your body. So listen to your body. If it hurts, you want to pull away, you want to stop. You want to feel a little bit of a stretch. Switch to the other hand. You may want to shake that one out a little bit. Spread the fingers nice and wide. And then we're going to flip the opposite hand now, bringing the fingertips back. Maybe send those hips back a little bit to get more of a stretch. And then shake that wrist out. Let's bring the toes, the big toes to touch. Send the knees as wide as the mat. The hips are going to rest back onto the heels, coming into a child's pose here. Reach the arms in front towards the top of your mat. Take a nice inhale breath through the nose. And on the exhale breath, melt the heart down to the mat. You can go ahead and tent your fingertips up here for more of a stretch if you'd like. Really feeling a nice stretch into the hips now. So if your hips, this is your child's pose, that's okay. You can always put a pillow or blanket underneath, behind the knees. On the next inhale, lift your gaze, walk the hands over to the right. Inhale, breath. And on the exhale, melt the hips down. Really make that left hip, left glute heavy here for a nice side body stretch. And lifting the gaze, walk the hands through center and then over to the left side. Let your hips be heavy here. Take an inhale breath, and on the exhale, bring the chin to the chest and lower down. Take a couple nice breaths here. Feeling a nice side stretch through the entire right side body, from the fingertips all the way down to the right hip. Now inhale to lift the gaze, walk the hands through center. We're going to rise up, coming back through tabletop and making our way into a downward facing dog. Again, let's take those fingertips nice and wide, spread them nice and wide, take up space on the mat. The hands are about one step in front of the shoulders here. Curl the toes under, keeping a nice bend in the knees. Lift the knees from the mat. Send the hips up nice and high. We're sending the belly and the chest towards the thighs here. So you can take a moment to pedal out the hips. I'm sorry, pedal out the knees. You can shake the head yes and no. You can keep the knees with a nice bend here. Just take a moment here. Maybe you close your eyes. Just feel the sensations that you're feeling. You can turn the elbow creases towards the front of the mat. Maybe you turn the big toes to face in. So just taking any movements that may feel good for you. Here in our first down dog of the day. Wherever you may be, let's come to stillness. Take a nice inhale through your nose. Exhale out the mouth. One more time. Inhale through the nose. Exhale out the mouth. On the next inhale, let's guide the right foot up, stepping up in between the hands. So we'll step that right foot in between the hands. If you need help, you can use the right hand and just guide that foot up. So you can guide it up in between, take your time getting there, and then we'll lower that back knee down, coming into a low lunge position. The back toes can uncurl. And then we just want to open up through our chest here. So really stretching out through the front of that left leg, the hip flexors, the entire front side of the leg. Come back to the breath, lift the gaze, lift the heart, let your heart shine through here. Really use your breath here. Use your breath to become soft. Soften the jaw. Soften the shoulders down away from the ears. See if you can draw that left hip down towards the mat, a little bit more forward. And then we're going to place this left hand now flat onto the mat. And you can go ahead and turn your right toes towards the outside of the mat, maybe even take a little bit of a step towards the outside. And then on an inhale, the right hand's going to lift all the way up to the sky, taking a nice twist. You can check in with the hips. Maybe those hips can sink down a little bit more here. The gaze can go all the way up to the sky if that's okay. Think about pressing down into that hand and reaching all the way up through the fingertips. Create some length from fingers to fingers. Let's take 2 more breaths here. Inhaling to expand. Exhaling to contract. One more inhale. On that next exhale, let's slowly bring our right hand back down. And then we're gonna shift the hips back some as we raise that left foot up. So the hips come back, the left foot raises. Let's see if we can reach that right arm back and maybe grab a toe, maybe. A toe, a foot, an ankle, maybe not. This is a good place for a strap, a belt, a towel. You could wrap around. And if you can't reach, you could just lift here. That works too. And if you can make contact, maybe see if we can sink down into the hips a little more for a nice quad stretch. Come back into your breath, relaxing the jaw again. One more breath. On the exhale, release the leg. We're going to bring the hands. I bring both my hands on the inside of my front foot. Send that front foot back. To meet the other, I'm on my knees. Send those hips back, coming into a child's pose so the legs can be together or spread wide. The knees can be wide, your choice. Slowly melting the chest down. The arms can come down beside the thighs here. Resting the head down on the mat. We're here just for a moment. Recenter. Take a moment to reconnect back to your breath. Your next inhale, lift the gaze, lift back up, come through tabletop. Step the hands one step in front of the shoulders. Curl the back toes under. Lift back to our downward facing dog. We're going to move right onto the other side. So lifting the left foot, stepping it through the hands, guiding it if we need to, and lower the back knee down to the mat. The toes can soften, coming into low lunge on this side. And we lift that chest, let our heart shine through. See if we can allow our hips to sink down just a little bit more. Maybe we use the breath. Maybe we step back a little. If you went a little too far, you can always come out. Take a nice breath. Inhale, expand. Maybe on the exhale, use that breath to sink a little more. Keep that heart lifted. Soften the jaw, soften the forehead. Allow the shoulders to relax away from the ears. Keep breathing. We'll take one more full breath here. Planting the right hand down onto the mat, stepping the left foot out to the side. Turn those front toes out away from the body. And on an inhale breath, the left arm will now open, lifting all the way up to the sky. Reach through the fingertips. Press down through the hand. Really create length. The gaze can follow up. See if you can sink those hips back down a little bit. Let's take 3 breaths here. Each exhale, maybe you sink a little deeper. On your next inhale, let's lift those hips. See if we can lift that back leg. Maybe we reach back and grab it. Could be different on each side, okay? So see where we are today. And let's see if we can sink those hips forward some. Coming into quad stretch on this side. So just listening to your body today, seeing where you are today. One day you may be able to reach it, one day you may not, and that's okay. Don't beat yourself up about it. Every day is different. We accept it. We move on. It's your practice. This is why we come to the mat every day. You keep that chest lifted. Continue to inhale, expand, and exhale. we contract. We'll take one more breath here. Gently releasing the foot down. We'll bring the hands to meet in the center. Let's kick this left foot back to meet the other. And we're actually going to come down onto our bellies from here. So coming on down to the belly, the hands will come out a little wide from the shoulders. And I have my fingers tented up. So the feet, we're flat on the tops of the feet. You want the toenails pressing into the earth. The pelvic bone pressing into the earth. Our gaze is down. We're going to take about 3 baby cobras. So on an inhale breath, we're going to lift the head and the chest. And on the exhale, we'll lower, making this more of a wave-like move. So toenails are pressed in, pelvic bone is pressed in, navel pulls towards the spine, and we're hugging the ribs in. So on an inhale breath, we'll lift, exhale and lower. Inhale to lift, hugging those ribs in, exhale to lower. Draw the belly button to the spine, inhale to lift, exhale to lower. Guys did a great job. Let's draw the forearms down. We're going to bring the elbows now right below the shoulders. And actually they could be maybe a little bit even in front of the shoulders. So the hands are in direct line with the shoulders. We're coming into a Sphinx Pose. So shoulders, we're not hunched down, we're lifting, actively lifting the body. Again, lifting the belly button to our spine, drawing the chest through the shoulders here, broadening the collarbones. The gaze is towards the front of the mat or the front, more at an angle. So we're creating length up through the back of the neck. The fingertips are nice and spread out wide. If you're feeling pressure on the low back, think of scooping that low belly up and in. And breathe here. So let's take 3 breaths through the nose, expanding like a balloon in our belly, our ribs, and our chest. Exhaling as we contract. Try to soften any place you may feel like you're clenching, whether that's your fingers or your toes, maybe even the buttock muscles. See if you can relax the buttock muscles here. One more breath. Slowly release down, send the elbows wide. The palms rest on one another. The forehead will come down and rest on top of the palms. The toes point in towards one another. Crocodile pose. Maybe the hips bounce from side to side very gently, releasing any low back pressure. Take a moment here. Recenter, regroup. Come back to your breath. Gently lifting the gaze, bringing the hands underneath the shoulders, by the chest. Going to lift the body up, coming back to a tabletop position. The hands, the wrists are going to be below the shoulders here, the knees below the hips. We're coming into frog pose. So this is going to be a lot of pressure on the knees. So if you have an extra blanket or extra towel or towels, this is where you'll want them. They're going to be under each knee here. So we're going to start in a tabletop position. And we're going to slowly begin to take the knees wide. So take one knee out to the side, take the other knee out to the side. You can start with the width of your mat. And then once you get there, the toes are going to point away from one another. So the knees are wider than the hips. See how you feel here, okay? The toes are turned away from one another. This may be your frog pose today. So this is okay. This is good. We're working on hips, inner thighs. This is where you should be feeling your frog pose. Knees will stay in line with the hips, okay? So when we're in this pose, knees are in line with hips. Frog pose is not here. Frog pose will be right here, okay? Whether you go deeper or not, we want to keep those hips in line. So if you feel that you can go a little bit deeper, we can send those knees a little wider. Now another important alignment is the ankles. So the ankles stay in line with the knees. So when the knees move, the ankles move. Also important in this pose is your breath. Make sure you continue your breathing. See if you can drop the heels down to the earth. Check in with your hips. You may need to send them back to be in line with the knees here. Pressing into your fingertips. Keep awareness in the shoulders. Your head and your neck can be heavy. Now some people can even spread much wider. So if this is a pose that's in your practice and that you're comfortable with, you can take it down even further. You can also come down onto the forearms. The head can be nice and heavy, the head and the neck. So this is one of those poses that everybody's going to look a little bit different in frog pose. So you take it to where you feel the stretch. Your breathing is important. Awareness in the shoulders. The head and the neck can be heavy. And let's breathe here. Nice controlled breath. Use the breath. Send it throughout your body. Be here for 2 more breaths. To come out of frog pose, draw the navel up and in. Press into your shoulders. I like to go to one side and begin to draw the feet and the knees into the center, and then the other till you've come all the way up back to a tabletop position. Take your time. If you need to press forward and come onto the belly, you can do that as well. So your transitions in and out of poses are just as important as the pose themselves. Take it slow, move slowly. We don't want to have any injuries coming in and out of poses. So always make your transitions nice and gentle and slow as well. So from our tabletop position, we're going to move into a toe stand. So we're on our feet. We're on our feet a lot. So our feet do a lot of work for us, and they're often neglected. This is a great pose to do. It's very intense. We won't be in it long. Start by curling the toes under, and then we're going to sit the hips back onto the heels. Now you may have to, the little toes, you may have to actually curl under so they make contact with the floor. And then you will sit back, walk the hands up the thighs. You can feel the intenseness already. Let's take the focus away from that. We're going to use the palm of our hand and just begin to knead in the crease of the hips. You'll feel a really great sensation. Another area that's kind of missed. Come to your breathing here. You're feeling really deep sensations. Focus on your breath. Continue to knead in the hip creases. We're only here for 2 more breaths. If it's too much, you can come out. Try to stay with it. One more breath. Slowly come forward, bringing the hands back to tabletop, and then just pitter-patter the feet out. You can feel the blood rushing back to your toes. It's super intense, but oh, it feels so good after when you feel the blood rush back in. And as you work that and continue to put that in your practice, you can hold it for longer times as well. Now we're going to come into Gomu Kasana. This is a hip stretch. Everybody's Gomu Kasana will look different, and each side will be different. So we'll start with our right leg. So let's bring the right knee to the center. And then we're going to take the left leg and bring it behind the right, cross it over, and then take the toes wide. So the toes will come to the outsides of the mat, and then walking the hands back. Let me actually move forward on my mat. So the right knee comes to center, the left knee comes behind and crosses over that right leg. And then the toes come out wide. Walk the hands back so we can sit back onto our hips. So if you don't have open hips, this sitting part is where it's going to be difficult for you. Now you may want to get a pillow, a block, something to sit on, because this may be where you're at. You may also need to unwind these legs a little, so that's okay as well. So wherever you're at, where you feel that stretch in those outer hips is where you want to be. So that's okay. Wherever you're at today is okay. If you need to roll up a blanket, put it underneath the hips, perfectly fine. So the toes are nice and wide. We send the hips back. Let's see if we can get both sit bones on the mat. That's the goal. If you can't, that's okay. You can always shove a pillow or something underneath the hip that's not quite there. Of course, the wider that the feet, the heels and the toes are, the more of a stretch you're going to feel. You should be feeling it in the outer hips right now. You do want to try to sit up as tall as possible, as tall as the spine can be. You can stay right here. You can grab the outer toes with your peace fingers and sit up nice and tall. This can be our Gomu Kasana today. If this is really, really intense for you, you may want to stay right here and come to your breathing. Really use the breath to help open up those hips. We can go ahead and add the arms, so you can reach back for elbow to elbow. And I actually have a hard time opening my shoulders, so I'm actually just reaching forearm to forearm right here. And this is where I'm going to stay today. Find a spot to focus on. And we're going to stay here for 3 breaths. We really want to use the breath. This is an intense pose. On the inhale, send that breath down through your entire body. Send it to all those places you feel a stretch. And on an exhale, gather up all of that tension and allow it to release away from the body. On the inhale, send all that goodness, that freshness to those areas. And on the exhale, send all the tightness and the tension away. One more breath. We can release the arms if we took the arms today. You can just unwind the legs to come out if this is really intense for you, or we can just come back into our tabletop. So if you're able to come that way, then let's do that. We'll unravel the left leg, and we're coming back to tabletop. If you just unraveled from where you were seated, meet us in a tabletop position. We're going to move on to the other side, taking the left leg into center. The right leg will cross over behind. We're taking both toes to the outside. Now get ready, because the side's going to be a little bit different. Begin to walk the hands back as we sit the hips back onto the ground. So the feet are wide. Let's try to snuggle the hip bones down in. Immediately you'll notice either I'm more flexible here or I'm less flexible. So just notice that, make a note of it, and we'll move on. We are either going to clasp here, we can clasp our ankles, we can rest here. We want a nice tall spine, create length out the crown of the head. Or we can now take the opposite elbow in hand, opening the chest, sitting up nice and tall, finding a drishti point, and begin to focus on our breath. As we take 3 breaths here, softening the jaw, relaxing the shoulders away from the ears. One more full breath. Releasing the arms. Shake those arms out. And then from here, we're going to release the left leg. Release the left leg, or the right leg, I'm sorry. I'm going to bring them in front, placing my hands behind the hips and just swaying my legs from right to left. Releasing any tension, windshield wipering the legs out here. I love that pose. It's an intense pose. Really gets into the hips, and it's intense. It can be intense, but it is very good for the outside of the hips. We're coming into a wide-legged stretch. So taking the legs nice and wide, you're wide-legged, whatever's wide-legged for you, that's where you want to be. I try to stress that because I don't want anybody to compare themselves to my wide-legged. Some people's wide-legged is much wider than mine. So just remember, anybody, if you can breathe, you can do yoga. So taking the legs wide as you can, comfortably, where you can sit up nice and tall. So sitting up nice and tall, you want the knees facing the ceiling, the toes are facing the ceiling, maybe even drawing back towards the face. Sitting up nice and tall. If this feels good to you, you can stay here. The hands can also come behind to help sit up nice and tall. If you can feel that stretch through the inner thigh, this is where you're going to stay in this pose. If you would like more of a stretch or for a deeper stretch, you can begin to slowly walk the hands forward. You may even get down on the forearms. Go to where you feel that stretch today, and then hold. Try to keep a nice straight spine. We're not folding today and rounding. We're keeping the nice straight spine. Come to the inhales and the exhales, and we're here for 3 breaths. You can close the eyes if that feels comfortable. You can find a focus point. On an inhale breath, you can think about straightening the spine, and on the exhale, you can think about even folding a little bit more, even if it's just in the mind. That's the way you can increase your flexibility. Let's take one final breath. Inhale, grow long out through the top of the head, the crown of the head, and on the exhale, see if you can fold just a little deeper. And then on the next inhale, walk the hands in if you took the fold. Draw the legs in towards one another. Go ahead and shake them out. We're going to slowly make our way down onto our backs. You can use support with the hands. You can come with me, and we're going to roll down one vertebrae at a time. Taking the hands out in front, slowly making our way onto our back. Taking the feet flat on the mat. So just taking a moment here, allowing the spine to acclimate to our supine position. You could take a moment, coming back to the breath, recentering, noticing how your body feels. And now drawing the right knee into the chest, flexing the right foot, keeping it active. And then drawing that right knee towards the right shoulder or the right armpit, and then back into the chest, and then to the shoulder. So just creating compression in the front of that right hip here, alternating from the center to the outside. And then once the knee is towards the outside here, you can take this right hand and reach either for the inner arch of the right foot, the outside of the right foot, or even to the ankle or the calf muscle. And then drawing the right shoulder back down, bringing the sole of the right foot to the sky, coming into a happy baby pose here, a half happy baby pose. And since this is our half happy baby, we can go ahead and play around with it. You can straighten, bend, and play with this half happy baby. Maybe take a smile. Maybe practice drawing that right knee down towards the floor. then gently resting the right ankle onto the left thigh, allowing the right knee to fall away from the body in a figure four position. Both hands are now at the sides of the body. That right foot is still flexed. On an inhale breath, let's begin to draw the legs into the chest. Both feet are flexed. Exhale to lower. Inhale to lift. Exhale to lower. Inhale to lift. Exhale to lower. Last time, inhale to lift. This time, keep the legs up. Taking the arms, we'll thread them through the left leg, grasping behind the thigh, or you can even grasp onto the knee and just hugging the legs into the chest. Again, both feet are active, keeping them flexed. You can even rock side to side if that feels good. Beginning to slow your breathing down. Thinking about the expansion on the inhale, contracting on the exhale. And then keeping the legs where they are, release the hands and bring them out to an airplane position. And then allow the entire leg package to fall over to the left side, bringing the bottom, the sole of the right foot down to the earth, if possible, if you're able to meet the earth here. If not, you can put a block, a book, a blanket, pillow, anything underneath for support. And then you can take your gaze over the right shoulder if that feels okay. You could also take the left hand and gently pressing it on the inside of this right knee. Just apply just gentle pressure, not torquing it away from the body. Releasing the arms back down to the sides. We're going to lift the legs back up through center, uncross, and lower both feet down onto the mat. Lifting the left leg now into the chest. Flexing that foot. Squeezing the knee into the chest. And then out to the shoulder or the armpit. And back into the chest. To the shoulder. To the chest. Out to the shoulder. To the chest. And then holding out here to the shoulder. And using the left hand to grab the inner arch, the outside of the foot, the ankle, the shin, the calf. Drawing the left shoulder back to the earth as we lift and open the sole of the foot to the sky for half happy baby on this side. play around with straightening and bending the leg. Just keeping the foot flexed. Continue to breathe. And then slowly placing the left ankle onto the right thigh. The left hand can rest onto the left knee as we gently guide it away from the body. Both hands will now rest beside the body, and on an inhale breath, the legs will draw in, and exhale to lower. Inhale to lift, exhale to lower. Inhale to lift, exhale to lower. Inhale to lift, exhale to lower. Last one, inhale to lift, stay here and hold. The arms can thread through to clasp behind the thigh, or you can clasp the knee, drawing the legs in, stretching out the left thigh, the left hip. Both feet are active. You can take gentle rocks side to side. And now leaving the legs where they are, release the arms, place them out to airplane arms, and the legs will fall over to the right side till the sole of the left foot reaches the mat, the floor, or a pillow or a block, anything placed beneath it. The gaze can come over the left shoulder, if that feels okay. Coming into a supine twist on this side. You can stay here. The right hand can gently guide that left knee away if that feels okay, and that hip. And then using that core, lifting the hips back up through center, uncross the legs, hug the knees into the chest, or release the feet back down, making our way into our final relaxation. You can keep the legs bent the way that they are, just walking the feet out wide and let the knees knock into one another. This is great if you have some low back pressure or pain. So you could stay here for your final relaxation. Or you could take traditional and straighten one leg at a time, taking the feet nice and wide on the mat. Allow the toes to fall out to the sides. Arms come down to the sides of the body, palms facing up. Snuggle those shoulder blades underneath the body. Make yourself nice and comfortable. Take out any of those last wiggles that you may have. so you can become nice and still where you are. Just begin to notice your head becoming nice and heavy into your mat, into the floor beneath you. Your skull is heavy as it comes around to the top of the skull, all the way to the front of your forehead, till it comes to the spot in between your eyebrows, where we call your third eye. Begin to notice a nice warm light building in that space. And from that warm light, begin to notice it expanding across your face as your cheeks begin to soften and melt away. Your jaw relaxes. Your tongue softens down into the bottom of your mouth. As the glow of the light moves down to your neck and relaxes into your shoulders. You begin to feel the weight of the shoulders lifted off of you. This warm glow light slowly makes its way down the arms, past your elbows, into the wrist, into each one of your fingertips. You begin to feel your chest, your ribs, your belly become heavy as the glow of the light makes its way towards your pelvis, into your hips, as you slowly become relaxed and heavy into the earth beneath you. As the light begins to travel down the legs, into your knees, down the shins and the calves, and makes its way to the ankles, your heels, into your feet, and into your toes. Your entire body begins to feel entirely weightless, soft, rested, safe. The glow of the light slowly makes its way back up the entirety of your body, all the way back through the hips, the chest, your shoulders, your jaw, back to your third eye space, where it now rests, looking over the entire body in peace as you rest here in stillness in Savasana. If time allows for you to stay here in Savasana, for a little longer today. I invite you to remain rested here as I am going to today for maybe another 5, 10, or 15 minutes. If time does not allow for you to stay, you can begin to deepen your breath. Slowly add movement, rolling your wrist, ankles, gentle nodding of the head. And then when you're ready, slowly making your way back to a seated position. Take your time to welcome in the day. And as always, thank you for joining me in our practice today. I hope to see you all again soon. Namaste.